And welcome back again. Here we are with another review or recap of what was a phenomenal weekend of college track and field. Thank you for visiting me and listening once again. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment if you have any feedback you'd like to provide. As you will see, I do converse in the comments. There was a lot that took place this weekend, and I had two videos last week that indicated that we were in for a special weekend. We obviously had last week's weekly review, and then there was also the rankings review where we looked at the rankings as they were currently, and I think again they're going to shake up. I just really think that there will be some changes simply because the rankings did not match what we saw this weekend. There are some athletes who I believe that are out injured. We also learned some things about some other athletes that we didn't know about. So the rankings will likely take an adjustment again. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started with today's video. This is getting closer to the close of the indoor season. We know next week, or really this coming week, we'll see some conference championships start, and then we'll also see some sort of last minute tune-ups. Because once the conference championship weekend hits, there's no longer an opportunity to qualify. So this will be a sort of a last ditch opportunity from some schools to try to get their athletes to either be one of the top 16 individuals or for relays to be one of the top 12. There were 21 number one performances this weekend, 10 for the men, 11 for the women. Got a lot to talk about. Today's format will be similar to our structure here, which is a four-leg format. Our first leg today will be the distance. Our second leg will be sprints and hurdles. Our third leg will be jumps and will be anchored by our throws. So without further ado, we'll get started with our distance runners and we'll look right away on the men's side into the 800, one of the five fastest times ever run indoors in collegiate history, from Tanada Matsatsa of Georgetown in the 800, 1:45:21. What a fantastic time. And he's already broken an NCAA record. He broke the record in the 1,000 early in the season. I think it was week one or week two review. We talked about it, even though the 1K is not a regular event on the championship scale. It's still an impressive feat when you're able to break an NCAA record. And he's already has that on his resume. And running that 1:45:2, he's very close to an indoor record of the 800. So his name needs to be reinserted as a contender. There's still that 142 guy out there. Well, maybe we'll mention him. But right now, Tanada Matsatsa of Georgetown is the leader in the wheelhouse of the 800. And it'll be interesting to see what he does come postseason. This is a great time to put up now. It sort of cements him, gets him a qualification to the NCAA meet. When he'll probably focus on in conference championship season, or the meet rather, because Georgetown is in the Big East, he more than likely will be doing a multitude of events. The other mark on the men's side came from Washington. It was their DMR. They broke the NCAA record. This is a year for the DMR. It's like, man, 9:14:10. They won the race by, I think, almost 20 seconds. The closest team to them runs a 9:32. They're 18 seconds ahead of the rest of the NCAA. So with this being the tune-up week, or what some have called DMR weekend, we may see a lot of teams put their best effort with their DMRs this weekend just to try to qualify so that next weekend for college conference championships, they can focus on a multitude of events to score as many points as possible. We'll probably see some more teams run sub 9:30. I don't know how many teams are going to run sub 9:20. But Washington 9:14:10, we didn't mention them. They're probably the best at developing middle distance runners. And the DMR is all about your middle distance and distance depth. And Washington has a lot of it. A lot. From the 800, the mile to the 3K. This is a really deep squad. And they proved that this weekend with a 9:14:10. What an impressive mark. At this point in the season, I think it's very clear to say that they are the favorites. Unless someone this weekend breaks that NCAA record again. And I don't think they will. I do think Oregon has the potential of having a really good team. And I also think so does someone like an Oklahoma State have a potential for a great team. But can they do that? I'm not sure. On the women's side, with distance, we're looking at Juliet Whitaker of Stanford. I know many of you probably went to sleep Saturday night thinking it was Sanu Jalou of Arkansas who ran that 159.7 at Tyson Invitational. She was rabbited by former teammate and professional 400-meter runner Amber Anning. Still not enough because out in Seattle, Juliet Whitaker of Stanford was knocking away at that time. It was only a matter of time before someone went under 2 minutes indoors. It just happened to be two in the same weekend, and Juliet Whitaker, the defending outdoor champion, takes over and kind of reminds everybody this is why I'm the favorite. 159.44, what an impressive mark. Then our NCAA record at an event that I said was going to be great on both sides, men and women, but specifically on the women's side. I didn't think it would be this great. Celine Ayadils of Oregon has broken the NCAA record in the mile. I didn't think we had a Maya Ramsden or a Caitlin Tooley type runner this year. Clearly we did because she broke their record. 4:23.46 in the mile, an NCAA record at Oregon. They have serious depth as well. We're going to talk about them in the DMR. Phenomenal performance by her, being coached by Shalane Woodley. This is a great Oregon team distance wise. I think it's been a while since I've seen them have this much depth across their distance. And they're out west having to recruit and compete against BYU and New Mexico and Northern Arizona. And here they are still in Washington. And here they are still putting out those marks, those top tier marks, those NCAA records, representing that incredible alumni base and fan base for the University of Oregon. 4:23.46, we have a new NCAA record in the mile. One of a few that happened this weekend. So hats off to this young lady. Speaking of BYU, you have Lexi Halliday Lowry, an all-time performance in the 3K, 840.6. Clearly things are going well with the coaching at BYU because they are churning them out when it comes to distance. Such a competitive program. They have the advantage of that terrain out there at altitude for BYU, and they are utilizing that. BYU's distance runners seem to be just a cut above, and I think they're going to really hammer at NCAA championship season. We know they're in the Big 12. It is a heavy, tough conference, and it will be competed at Texas Tech again in a couple weeks. They're going to be going up against great distance powers such as Oklahoma State, along with Iowa State, and TCU in the middle distance range, but this really should be a BYU domination in a couple of weeks. Their DMR was one of four schools that broke the DMR NCAA record. Again, crazy weekend. We said it was going to be good, but I did not see any of these things coming. We're seeing a multitude of people climbing the all-time list. I mean, think about it. And it just wasn't the only Oregon or the only miler that performed in a top five list. Like 3 or 4 performances from this weekend in the mile are now in the top 5 all-time list. That is insane. Then their time for BYU in the DMR was 10:37.58. Not only are we looking at a sub 11 minutes, sub 10:50, we're at sub 10:40 now. 10:37.58. Are you kidding me? That is really a flex on the rest of the NCAA field because they are literally saying loud and clear, no one has it as good as we do. We are really out coaching and out developing everybody. And BYU really put it up. 10:37.58. Oregon had a great showing as well. I said at the beginning of the season it was going to take under 11 minutes just to qualify. Right now, there's 11 schools under 11 minutes right now. 11. With this probably being DMR weekend coming up, I'm almost sure it'll be more than that. So that prediction will come to fruition. This is a very tough event now. It blows my mind. Just a few years ago, 11 minutes would have gotten you a national title. Now, not only can you not run just 11 minutes, you can't just run sub 10:50. You got to run sub 10:40 to hang with BYU. What? That is a very different level. Now, moving on to our second leg, the sprints and hurdles, we had a lot. And this is where the bulk of the men's action happened. Literally in just about in every sprint and hurdle event, there was a change. It's a new number one all across the board. On the 60-meter dash, we're going to go to Auburn. Kenyan Sola Ajayi 651. And then in the 200, Makanakashi Sharamba, of also of Auburn, in the 200, 20.16. That's right. Auburn has the top guy in the 60 and the 200. Stealing some of that thunder from USC, who I still think is number one. But Auburn's going to be there. And I think come outdoor season, they're going to be a little bit louder. They have a lot of depth in sprints, and they have a lot of international runners, and it's working very well for them. Not forget who their coach is, Leroy Burrell. Although Carl Lewis took over the short sprints while they were together at Houston, Leroy Burrell had a phenomenal program before Carl Lewis even came back to coach. And he's proven that being in Auburn, he knows what it takes to develop great sprinters, and he's really doing that. Having the top guy in the 60 and the 200, and there being two different guys, and there being an array of guys at Auburn that can run sub 6'6". I think in order to qualify for this year's NCAA meet, it probably may require for you to be at 6'60" or less. We're looking at a heavy field of 6'5". No one has run 6'4" yet. I know that's coming. But Kanyan Sola Ajayi of Auburn, 651, and Makanakashi Sharamba of Auburn, 20.16. This is a really deep and strong group of Auburn runners. Expect for them to really dominate in years to come. In the 400, you have Nathaniel Ezekiel of Baylor. Did we forget that at one point in time that was the 400-meter school being coached by Clyde Hart? All those great Olympic champions and Olympians, Michael Johnson, Jeremy Warner, Darrell Williamson, Brandon Couts. It was a number of great 400-meter runners that came out of Baylor from the late 80s all the way to the mid 2000s, all developed by Clyde Hart. We forgot what great 400-meter runners they can develop. His time was 44.92, but it was ran at altitude, so it was converted to 45.03. So no one under 45 officially yet, but we're not going to ignore that 44.92. That is an African record, the fastest African runner ever for Nathaniel Ezekiel. And remember, Ezekiel is a 400 hurdler. He is not an open 400 runner. So it's been a long time since we've seen the 400 hurdler be the top 400 runner indoors. We're probably thinking back to the great Karan Clement, when he broke the NCAA record and the world record, because he is still number 2 all time behind only Michael Norman. He held the world record for a very long time. Then we move into the high hurdles. We have a tie. Johnny Brackers of USC is still the guy at 7.48. We're waiting to see if he can catch up to J.C. Stevenson in the long jump, but he went from 7.49 to 7.48. I think that was the most competitive field he will face probably until the NCAA championship. I don't think there's really anyone in the Big Ten that's going to give him a fright. And that's no knock on the Big Ten, because this is a deep Big Ten now. You have not only USC, you have UCLA, Oregon, Washington, Ohio State, to go along with the Michigans, the Michigan States, the Indiana. It's a lot. But I think Johnny Brackens is noticeably a step above everyone else in the Big Ten. Malachi Snow of Texas Tech, who I mentioned when he was, in the transfer video, already mentioned here, because at one point he was the NCAA lead. He's a top competitor in not just the 60-meter dash, but in the hurdlers. And I think when it comes to speed-wise, he is the fastest hurdler in the country by far. And if he can just get that technique to match that speed, which, hopefully he stays in college and develops, I think one more year or two at Texas Tech, he's going to be at a very elite level. He matches Bracken's time with 7.48. He did run 7.46, but remember, it's at altitude, so it was converted down to a 7.48. And the last new number 1 performance in the sprints and hurdles for the men's side came from Texas A&M's 4x4. Yes, they have officially, fully and completely knocked Florida down to number 2. 302.21 from this Texas A&M squad. It's a new quartet. They have 3 different quartets this year, possibly 4, and they're all ranked in the top 12. This is a very, very deep group. Pat Henry knows what he's doing with 4x4s. He knows what he's doing with relays. And he's, finagled with this order all year. And this one, to me, seems to be the best one. It worked very well. They were very dominant against a really competitive field, and they ran 302.21 specifically on the last two legs, really unopposed. They were clearly ahead of the field and never really let up. I think SEC is going to be fireworks because Florida, although they didn't beat Arkansas this weekend, they ran a low 304 without their top guy, Genoa McIver, and with two freshmen. I mean, yes, with two freshmen on that 4x4. We're still waiting for the rest of those 400-meter runners to get to where Genoa McIver's level is. They haven't really gotten there yet to me, and for Florida, we'll probably see them get there maybe in SEC championships. If not, come outdoor. But Texas A&M's 400-meter runners, they are there. Ahmad Robinson is their top guy. He's the leadoff now. I think come outdoor, it will change. At least I hope. Because as you've seen on this channel, I have a really big video on him. He's insanely talented on the anchor. I think he's better suited for outdoors. But 302.21, hats off to them. What a great group of 400-meter runners they have at Texas A&M. But again, no surprise with Pat Henry. On the women's side, Pat Henry's old stomping ground is still proven to be the queens of the short sprint. Team of God Bless of LSU in the 60-meter dash, 7:08. I did not stutter. 7:08. We have our first sub-7 one of the season. LSU got things started late because they had to miss a meet because of a rare snowstorm in Louisiana. Yes, you heard. I know the weather is strange now. 7:08 for Team of God Bless, proven to be probably their deepest and most competitive group since they had Micaiah Briscoe and the rest of that really wonderful quartet that was there. I think they will be the deepest 100-meter group coming outdoors because, Brianna Liston finally debuted and she ran the easiest 7.13 I think I've ever seen. She was so relaxed. She didn't even dip the line. She just ran through almost like she jogged at the end. I said, oh, well. I still think she's the favorite. Shout out to Tima, 7:08, but Brianna's coming. In the 200, another defending champion looking like herself finally. Jamesha Ford of South Carolina in the 200, 22:34, matching her PR from last year. The defending champion is looking strong. Naisha Berger of UTEP also ran a 22:39, which was converted to, I believe, a 22:43 because it was at altitude. But all eyes are on Jamesha Ford because the defending champion looks like she's ready. And with the SEC championship coming up, I think we're going to get to see our young, very talented sprinter lower that time. I think she's going to try to pull off a tough double, 2:4 for South Carolina. In the 400 is a woman that's going to look to stop her. She's an Olympic gold medalist for running on that 4x4. And she's a sub-50 runner outdoors, running 49. It's Aaliyah Butler of Georgia, having run a new NCAA number 1, 50.85. There were two sub-51 runners this weekend. Her and, of course, Juliette Whitaker's sister, Isabella Whitaker, also ran a 50.9. This is a deep field in the 400 that I was just waiting to kind of meet where they could potentially get. I said that last week. I said, no one has really impressed me yet. And even though Aaliyah's ran 50.85, I still think she can lower that. I think the winner of this 400 come NCAA championship meet is either going to be a low 50-point runner or a 49 runner. I think it's going to require that because a lot of this top-tier talent hasn't ran against each other yet. We haven't seen Aaliyah Butler versus Jamesha Ford yet, and we're going to get to see it come SEC championship time. Our last major sprint event we'll cover is in the 60 hurdles on the women's side. That's Onika Wilson of Clemson. I've seen her in person. I've covered her. There's a video of her on my channel of her winning the 100 hurdles at the ACC championship. This is a real deep hurdle field where it's close and compact, but there has not been a breakout star. We were expecting a 7.7 runner, a 7.8 runner. We don't have that yet. And so then it became who can get under 8 seconds. And last week we got our first sub-8 runner. And now we have two of them. But Onika Wilson has that speed to go with being a potential 7.8 threat. From Clemson, 7.95, a new NCAA lead. And a name you have to keep an eye, you got to keep a name, I'm squirreling my words. A name you got to keep an eye on. That's what I meant. Onika Wilson of Clemson, 7.95. She is going to be a threat come championship time. We'll see what she does this coming ACC championship. I believe it's going to be on her home track. So she may be looking to lower that time before we even get to the NCAA championship. Now, our third leg is jumps. So not a lot of action happened here in either of the field events, but there was an NCAA record, and we'll get to that in just a moment. On the men's side, the long jump came from Scotty Vines of Arkansas, a freshman in the high jump, 7 feet 6, 2.29 meters. You know, I've been riding the Tyus Wilson of Nebraska chain because, again, I still stand by that Nebraska is probably the best technical school of all field event schools. But Scotty Vines, as a freshman jumping 7 feet 6, just makes your eyes pop out of your sockets. Arkansas clearly knows what they're doing with their high jumpers. They had Romaine Beckford last year, and they're looking to go back to back, but using a freshman to do it. 7 feet 6, 2.29 meters. I'm curious to see what he does when it comes to an SEC championship because the conference championship really reveals whether the freshmen really have what it takes. It's a very different feel at a conference championship meet than it is a major invitational. Those are fun. Conference championship meets are very competitive, specifically being in the SEC and especially being from Arkansas. It's going to have a lot of pressure, but he's proven that he can handle the big names. On the women's side in the jumps, we have another NCAA record, and it's not Hannah Mo. It's her twin sister this time. This year, it's about Amanda Mo from Washington in the pole vault, 16 feet. We have our first ever 16-foot jumper in the pole vault, 4.88 meters. She is the NCAA record holder. There are currently 7 women with a jump above 15 feet. It's funny because for a while, that's all you needed to win. And with 7 athletes capable of jumping 15 feet and one with 16 feet, that's not enough. It's going to take a PR come championship time to be the winner. I cannot believe I'm moving Amanda above Hannah because Hannah had such a strong year last year, but hats off to Amanda Mole, 16 feet, 4.88 meters. This has proven to be an impressive Washington team. Not just great distance runners, they have some great field athletes as well. Also, you have Winnie B of Texas A&M. She transferred to Texas A&M, and it's worked out for her. In the triple jump, 45 feet, 11, 3 1/4 inches, 14.01 meters. Ruta Lasmain is still, to me, the favorite, but Winnie B has beaten Ruta Lasmain before. Remember, when Winnie B was in the Big 12 last season, I believe, for Iowa State, she beat Ruta Lasmain at the Big 12 championship. But Ruta was able to rebound at the NCAA championship indoors and kind of dominated for most of the outdoor season. But she's at a different school, a school that's all about championships at Texas A&M. So keep an eye on Winnie B. Now moving to our anchor leg, the throws, we have 2 marks to talk about. On the men's side, you have our mainstay. He just keeps chopping away at the number 1 lead. He's still the number 1 guy, even when threatened, because he was this weekend. He went up against a top competitor and dominated in the rounds. Tariq Robinson O'Hagan of Ole Miss in the shot put, 69 feet, 3 1/4 inches, 21.11 meters. Almost had 70 feet. It may take that to win it, but hats off to him. He just keeps chugging away at that NCAA lead. He's not letting up. He is making it a very clear statement that I am the best shot putter in the country, and none of you can hang with me. And so far, no one has. On the women's side, a new name, Kayla Dove of Houston in the shot put, 63 feet, 10 1/4 inches, 19.46 meters, a new personal best. Yes, Houston. We used to talking about sprinters and hurdlers and relay runners, but right now Houston is really putting up with some great field athletes. They have a great decathlete on the men's side, and they're showing some great throwing capabilities on the women's side. We have a new leader taking down Maya Lesnar from Colorado State. Kayla Dove, our new leader in the house, 63 feet, 10 1/4 inches, 19.46 meters. I'm not going to put any expectations on her because she's new to being mentioned on this channel. So I'm looking forward to see what she can do this coming season. She's getting ready for a competitive Big 12 championship, which to me, if we're looking at what are the toughest conferences, I think SEC is number 1. But I would put Big 12 right there because Big 12 is just as deep from top to bottom and in the fields. I really kind of want to see who's going to have more number one marks. Will it be the SEC or will it be the Big 12? I think a distant third, unfortunately, is the ACC and the Big 10. They're just not there at the level of the SEC and the Big 12. Well, there you have it. An eventful week six as expected. 21 new number one performances. And here we go. We're getting ready for conference championship weekend. We may or may not do previews here for the conference championship. It depends on how fast they're able to get the heat sheets out and how much time it will take to do these preview videos. But I wouldn't mind like doing maybe Power 4, Power 3 previews for what I think will be an exciting conference championship weekend. This coming weekend, it may be light on number one performances. We may see some new marks in the DMR territory. So, looking forward to talking with you again next week, and we'll see what we come up with next week for a weekly review if there are any new number ones. Thank you, as always, for your support. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you in the next one.